Hello, welcome back to All For United WSL. Apologies for that. There was we were all sat backstage. I was there just looking through my phone. I was like, yeah, just get the tweets out and everything like that. We've got plenty of time. I look at my phone. Oh, 3 or 4 minutes over. So that is my fault that we are late going. We're never on time, are we? I don't remember a single show where we go live on time. But there we are. As you can see, you've got Jess back again 48 hours later from her last appearance on Wednesday night. And Caden. So thank you for joining us this evening. I nearly said this afternoon then, but I don't even know what it is. Evening, afternoon. It's one of the two, isn't it? We'll go with that. You are both muted, by the way. Just to throw that out there from the start, just in case you wanted to say anything.
No, I was muted, to be honest.
John's playing I Spy in the comments already. Didn't follow up there. Nobody responded. I'm a little bit disappointed that nobody went with that. So let us know, John, what you were thinking of. I mean, you were looking at a blank screen before we went live, so there we are. We might have a couple of other people joining over the next hour or so. Well, I can't imagine it's going to be an hour, but let's be honest. But we might have some other people joining as the show goes on, so we'll see how that one goes as well. And for sure, for you, it's probably, what are they? America's 6 hours behind, so early afternoon for you, TJ, depending on which side of the States that you're in. We'll dive into it, just kind of, you're feeling ahead of the game, really. Obviously, Jess, you were on the show Wednesday night, and we spoke about kind of Old Trafford as a whole, the game being Old Trafford and everything else. But how are you feeling about the game on the pitch? I guess you're pretty confident going into this one.
Yeah. I'm not overly concerned, to be honest. I think it should just be a kind of not easy. No games should be easy, but I hopefully we'll get a couple of early goals and then can just settle into it and cruise on through to a nice win. But you never know. I mean, to be fair to West Ham, I think they started the season quite well, so they can throw a spanner in the works. But I'm confident that we'll get a decent victory.
You'd like to hope so. Something we're going to get into about talking a little bit more about Old Trafford from a West Ham point of view. But we'll see on that one. But Caden, from yourself, from a West Ham perspective, I mean, how are you kind of feeling going into it? Obviously, we're going to talk about it being Old Trafford and everything else in just a little while. But on the pitch, are you confident? The score obviously was kept low at the away. Well, for us, obviously, the away game, the home game at West Ham 2-0 down there. So it's kept quite close. And it's always been a tough-ish fixture. But how are you kind of feeling ahead of this one?
Well, yeah, no game against any of the top four is going to be easy, but ever since we drew 0-0 with Arsenal, I've always thought, well, if we're capable of that, we can. I don't see why we can't go get some sort of result, but we've noted that we've been terrible since Christmas. I can't remember if we even won a league game or not, so it's not going to be easy, but as I said, if we can get a point against Arsenal, I think we can do anything.
It's certainly this league has thrown up some surprising results this season. That is for sure. Like I said, looking at United's home form against West Ham in recent years, well, we've never lost at home. Obviously, LSV is usually the home for this one. We did lose away a few years ago, 2019. Back then, obviously, we drew that painful 1-1 draw last season, which was horrendous. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen live. Chucking down with rain as well. Stood in that freezing cold, and that we were. That was not good. As Sarah said there, Jess, West Ham are not in great form. Do you read too much into that? Because as Kane just said there, since Christmas they've not been great. If you look at West Ham's recent kind of results since the turn of the year. They've won so I'm just looking at it. So they beat obviously Wolves in the FA Cup, beat Liverpool in the League Cup playoffs, beat West Ham, beat Spurs, but that was going, so that's December. So they haven't won since Christmas.
Yeah, so I remember thinking that they'd started the season quite well. I know they got a good win over Villa in quite a fiery game. I thought that they would carry that on. I don't know whether, Caden, you might know more on this, maybe since Christmas if other teams bought in some new players, and I don't know what business West Ham actually did, if any. But, they clearly are a pretty good team because they did start the season well. So I would imagine that at some point they are going to kind of go back to beating the teams that they should beat. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to beat United, but I can't see them kind of continuing with this run of form. Because like I say, at the start of the season, they were beating the teams that they should beat. And it's since Christmas that it's really dropped off. But I would expect at some point to start seeing an improvement with them, really. I can't see this being kind of a permanent drop in form. So, they're going to be up for this game, basically. They will be up for this game. So, there's every chance that they're going to make it difficult for us because I think they do have some good players.
I mean, Kate, what do you think it is since that? Because as we said, we said backstage before, and there was a lot of talk around Villa at the start of the season. Obviously, they've taken it to new levels, 26 points now that they're on. They're doing great this season. There's not much talk about West Ham and Everton. Obviously, I can see why now because of the way that the table looks for West Ham. But what do you think? Did you maybe not strengthen as much in January as that you'd have liked, or have other clubs just kind of outperformed with the current crop of players that they had at the start of the season?
Well, we had a bit of a mass exodus of players after Christmas. I think the big loss was Claudia Walker. She went to Birmingham City, which is obviously dropping a league down. I think that's above her level. I don't know. I mean, yeah, she's a great player. I didn't really see any benefit of her dropping down to the Championship, but what can you do about that? And then other players left, and then we did bring in a couple, but it wasn't anything like game changing. We're just kind of stagnant, if that makes sense. We're just not really. We're not gonna go down, but we haven't done anything that suggests we're trying to progress up the table. I don't really know what's happened behind the scenes or anything, especially with the amount of players that left. But I don't know. It's been a bit bizarre. But it happened last season as well, where we just dropped off after Christmas. Remember we lost 3-0 to Leicester, so it was a dreadful day that was. But yeah, it's the same thing that happened last season. Hopefully it's not something that keeps happening.
Is it still that young kid that's the kind of chairman? I know it's David's son, isn't it? What's his name? The one they did the documentary on, Jack. Is he still the head person at West Ham, or is it, I can't?
No, I don't think Jack's involved anymore now.
Because they did that documentary about him, didn't they? Being the youngest ever football person, or whatever it was.
I think that was the year we got to the FA Cup final.
It was lost to City, I think it was.
Yeah.
Another player that's worth mentioning before we go into I get danger players. Sarah's just mentioned one of them in the comments. I'm not going to try and pronounce that. I got to be honest. I'll leave that to somebody else.
Is it?
I think it's
the Icelandic
here, isn't it?
Brynjarsdottir, yes.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll leave you two to say that one. We'll come back to that in just a second. But a player, obviously, that United fans will know obviously very well, Kirsty Smith. How has she kind of settled into life down at West Ham? Because obviously I'm looking now, she's played most of the season, if not all of it, for West Ham. How do you think she's done kind of settling into that position?
Yeah, she's done all right. I mean, like you say, she's played most games, hasn't she? So she's clearly reliable. Conch clearly trusts her. So what more can you ask for, really? It's good that she's settled in. And like you said, if she was at United before, then she's got that WSL experience. It's good that she's getting on all right.
Certainly a player that I think United fans like and are glad to see that she's doing well in the WSL. We wouldn't have liked to have seen her drop away, certainly from the league, and certainly from bits I've seen, she's certainly doing more than all right down there. The question I was going to come to in a second. Where's it gone? That was the one. So these two questions kind of tie into the same thing. So I'm going to come back to you again, Kane, on this one. The player's name that you just said is a player that could just pop in the box. It kind of leads to Sporty's question in terms of who do United need to be ware of. I don't actually think that player's a top scorer. It's
is it
Asai?
Yeah. So she's on 6 goals, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she's on 6. So yeah, 6 goals, 3 assists. So she's actually 5th. She's ahead of, level with Galton from that point of view. So she's having a cracking season as well. So I imagine your answer is going to be her. But is there anyone else that United need to be kind of a little bit wary of on this front?
Well, if you look all over the pitch, obviously we got Mackenzie Arnold in net, and she is fantastic. I'm not sure if you saw her performance against Arsenal, but she was absolutely impenetrable that night. You just couldn't get past her. And then in the back, we've got Grace Fisk, who's been called up to Lionesses before, very competent player. You got Lucy Parker, who got called up to the Lionesses and then obviously suffered that injury, so she had to get out of the squad. And then I didn't say Lisa Evans, did I? Lisa Evans, obviously, we all know about Lisa Evans. She's fantastic. And then, yeah, Asai and Brynja's Dottir particularly, she can change the game, because as one of the comments said, she can just pop up in the box from anywhere. And then, yeah, I mean, one of the best examples I can think of was just of her changing a game was when we played Wolves in the FA Cup. I think it was 0-0. It got to like 65 minutes or something. We brought her on, and we were ahead in 5 because she scored. So she can change the game, and I think that her and Asai are definitely the big ones. And if Arnold's having a good game, then let's say you won't get past her.
I think that's going to be the thing, isn't it? You talk about having keepers. We're seeing it with Leicester, with Leipzig over at Leicester. She's literally winning Leicester points on her own just by the sheer amount of saves she's making in a game. And so having a talented keeper, we've seen it with Mary this season. They do win you points in games, by just keeping you in the tie. Alex saying there, talking about, rating Arnold, a very talented goalkeeper, going to cause us some problems. I mean, yes, we seem to have got over that kind of. We had that period in kind of January where our shooting form wasn't quite, even though obviously that 6-0 to Liverpool was there, our finishing wasn't exactly great, certainly for the weeks following that. And it's still not been ideal. We're still winning games, we're still scoring a little bit, but is that a slight concern? If we're not on it, as Arsenal found, is that maybe the one concern for this weekend, that if we're not on it, they do have a keeper that can make these?
That's something we need to be kind of wary of. Especially like we were just mentioning with West Ham having, a really good keeper, basically. She can win West Ham a point, I think, at least. All she has to do is keep them in the game for long enough, which means that our strikers are going to have to, really be more kind of accurate, I guess, because she can keep them in it. So we're going to have to be on form, and our finishing is going to have to be good, because we might not get that many opportunities in terms of clear-cut chances. So we need to make sure that we get as much on target as possible, basically, because if we don't, then we are going to struggle when you've got a keeper of her quality in goal.
Yeah, I mean, just on the kind of what we're expecting for the weekend and things like that. Obviously, we spoke about this on Wednesday, just about Old Trafford. Do you think that plays into our... I'll ask the same question to yourself, Kane, in a second, but do you think the pitch plays into our favour a little bit? Obviously, being United, we've played on these, I guess, bigger pitches more often. Jess, if you lead in on this one, do you think that will play into United's advantage, certainly later into the game? We've seen that in the past, against the...
Yeah, I think so. One thing I will say is, though, I think as much as obviously the United players will be up for it because it's Old Trafford, I think equally so with Old Trafford being such a kind of iconic pitch, I think any player from any team is going to be like, oh, wow, this is Old Trafford, And I think that's going to kind of, for the West Ham girls as well, it's going to really kind of make them want to push themselves as well. So whilst I do think it will, push the United players to perform better, I think it will also push the West Ham players to perform. Because let's face it, everyone is going to want to score a goal at Old Trafford, because you can then talk about that until the end of time. Not only that, but everyone's going to want to score a goal against Manchester United at Old Trafford, because the stadium on its own is so kind of iconic. So I do think it benefits both teams in some way. But I think in terms of the kind of actual size of the pitch and the atmosphere, I think it will obviously benefit the Man United players more in the end. I hope anyway, but we'll have to wait and see.
I can't remember who scored, but when Everton scored in the early minutes at Old Trafford, when we beat them 3-1, the players' reaction there, I think, said everything. Kind of running in front of the Stretford end, doing her own celebration and everything else, knee sliding and the lot. And even then, after that, she was still giving it to the crowd and giving it everything else. So I think...
I would just lose my head. I would... It's a dream. It is an absolute dream. There's a few stadiums that you're going to want to score in, and one of them is probably Old Trafford, because it is just kind of iconic no matter who you support. Kane, you might disagree being a West Ham fan, but I do think there's going to be a few stadiums that you're going to want to score in. And that's one.
No, for sure. I mean, Caden, for yourself, what do you think on that front? Do you think that, does it play into, are we overthinking this as United fans? Does it play into United's hands with it being at Old Trafford rather than LSV? Because we're not exactly bad at LSV either. I'm just thinking bigger pitch, bigger stadium and that kind of thing. West Ham maybe haven't had as many games in that type of ground.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the stadium, as someone that's been there before, I was there on the opening night of the Euros. It's imposing. It's going to be something that our players aren't used to. I mean, we've not played at London Stadium since 2019, and even then, I don't think a lot of the players that we had back then are still with the club now. So it's going to be a challenge for them. And compared to you, I don't think we've got nearly as much experience on the bigger pitches. Like, I can't remember. I think we played Brighton at the Amex last season, but that was it. And we didn't even play Leicester at the King Power last season, which is obviously a bigger pitch as well. So we don't have that experience, and I'm worried that will be a factor, the atmosphere, and also that we're not going to be used to that sort of environment.
Yeah, because Jess, it's something we spoke about on Wednesday, isn't it? The fact that should United be obviously hosting the bigger games at Old Trafford and things like that, but from a West Ham point of view, when you're looking at, no disrespect to West Ham, but not fighting, they're not trying to fight to avoid relegation, but they're not also fighting for the top three. So kind of in that middle ground, it's not an enticing tie from that point of view. So from West Ham, they're not going to be having these bigger games, bar obviously their own at the London Stadium. Have you had one actually, Kane, at the London Stadium this season? I can't remember if you have or not.
No, we're the only club that's not had any intention of going to the men's stadium off the top of my head, because I know Brighton were going to play at the Amex, weren't they? But I think the Queen dying prevented that, and they haven't rearranged that. But I think every other club either has or has stated intentions to, and we're the only club that hasn't.
Is there any reason for that, do you know?
Nothing that I know of. It's probably some behind the scenes thing that I'm not nearly as influential. I'm not nearly influential enough to know anything about. So.
Yeah, I just thought that they were really pushing for WSL teams to have kind of at least a couple of games at every stadium. I hadn't really clocked that West Ham hadn't had any at the London Stadium, to be honest, but that is quite interesting.
Yeah, we played Spurs there in 2019, and that was the last time.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because they were pushing at one point for every single club had to have at least one per season in the bigger ground, so to speak. So yeah, I just thought I'd ask, because I was trying to think. I was like, I swear you haven't, and obviously, you haven't this season. I was just trying to think if there's any other clubs that haven't played, because Liverpool obviously did the Merseyside derby at Anfield. Obviously, Everton are there tonight. Obviously, we know that the big four, I guess, if you want to call them that, have Spurs, have Leicester play there regularly, Reading play there regularly. Who's the other club? I'm missing a team. Villa. They've had their game at Villa Park, and Brighton.
Yeah, like I said, Brighton had intentions, but when the Queen died, they had to cancel that, and they haven't had the chance to rearrange it. So we don't know if they're going to get the chance.
Interesting. Certainly an interesting point. I mean, in sporting regards to that question, do you have any idea on the likely crowd figure? I haven't seen anything really. Going off the ticketing thing on United, I think it's going to be similar to the last one. I think it'll be slightly less. If I had to guess, I imagine it's going to be a bit less than that. I don't think it'll be a record.
Yeah,
I also don't think it'll be as low as what Everton was last season.
I'm sure when we played last time at Old Trafford, they were like tweeting about how many tickets they'd sold prior to the game, which makes me think that this time, because they're not doing that, it must be less.
I'm just having a quick look on the map now. So they've opened, obviously, the Bobby Charlton stand. Everywhere, so it looks like the East stands, Sir Alex Ferguson stand, Stretford End are sold out for the most part. And then you've just got the Bobby Charlton stand, which has pretty much got every seat left. I'm trying to work out how many that is. I imagine around 20 to 25. Yeah, I can't think it's going to be any more than that. So unfortunately, it's not going to be a record. Obviously, we spoke about this in great detail on Wednesday. But it's interesting to hear kind of an opposition fan point of view on this one. To you, Kane, is this game more attractive with it being Old Trafford? Obviously, it's going to have that more big of appeal because it's of the stadium that it's in. But does it make too much difference to you, or would you have preferred a bigger game, I guess, there, maybe a London rival type game to be in these bigger grounds, and that's a bit more enticing? I'm just, because we spoke about this a lot on Wednesday about how maybe the hype isn't the same from a United fan point of view, because we've done this before. We played Villa, a lot of the team is the same. And that maybe the hype isn't the same for United fans. I mean, how are you kind of feeling as a West Ham fan going into it? Is the hype more because it's at Old Trafford, or?
Well, I mean, any opportunity to play in the big stadiums is good. It's if I could have my own way, every club would play every game at the big stadiums. But I don't really know because I've just been waiting for the day that we announce that we're playing at London Stadium again. Any opportunity to play in the big stadiums is fantastic, but yeah, admittedly, as great as Old Trafford is, I would prefer it if we were playing a home game against Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, one where we'll be able to get our own fans in, and obviously they'll have good followings as well. We could get a really good crowd for that, because on our side, fan-wise, I know a couple that are based like up north and all that, but I can't see many of our fans being there. So is it really going to make much of a difference to us, or is it just going to be like, oh, we're not playing it at LSV, we're playing it at Old Trafford? That's just what it's going to feel like.
I certainly think so. I mean, I said my piece in the comments on Wednesday, but I mean, so just to have a little dig at another club, someone needs to tell that to Chelsea, because they love to announce that it's a sold-out event, and then you look at the actual attendance, it's about 1,000 less than what it actually is. So someone needs to have a word with Chelsea on that. But I agree. I mean, I think it was the game against Everton last season. They were announcing 30k sold, and when they had announced the attendance of 20,800, it's like, that, where's 10k gone? Like, you announced 30. So I think it's going to be similar to that. I think we might see 25 sold, 20 odds turn up potentially.
What was the Villa crowd?
30 something.
It's like 34.
I think it was 30.8 or something. It was. Hang on.
Look,
Let me get my facts right.
It's about half the ground.
There, but I can't remember.
Someone say something while I'm googling this.
If it's 35, that'd be about half the ground, wouldn't it?
It's all lower tier. I know that.
It's all lower
Old
tier.
Trafford holds like 74, 75,000.
I thought it was only about 70, but
so it was 20,000 against Everton.
Yep.
More than 30,000 tickets sold. I don't want sold. I want attended. Every single website I'm going on to.
I'm thinking it was like 34k. Maybe it wasn't that high.
Because it keeps bringing up the Euros like attendance, and obviously that was a lot higher.
Oh well, yeah, I know that
sold out.
It's not actually telling me how many. I think that's about right. I think people in the comments are agreeing it was just over. I think it was about 30 point something. But yeah, I don't think it's going to get. It might do. There's been a big uptake in sales the last 48 hours. It's a little bit late, but potentially we might get. I don't know. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but I'll be surprised if we get over 25. Anything around 20 is a success for me, because
yeah,
and it's not the greatest opposition. I mean, I'm saying that myself. It's not the most grand opposition in the world, is it? So,
well, that's one of the reasons I'm not as thinking about it. It's like, it's just another league game. Like,
if it was City or something, then I think you could be pursuing a sellout for that, but.
Yeah, I think if we could play City at Old Trafford, I think we'd sell a lot.
50 plus, maybe more.
I think so.
I reckon so. I think they really need to push that. I mean, I said the same thing on Wednesday. I think they really need to push some big fixtures there for next season. I know it's not really that easy because it's down to scheduling with the men and all sorts of other boring things, but I think that they just need to figure it out.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for next season. Hopefully in Europe, we'll be able to get some of those games there as well.
Oh, yeah, when we get our Champions League.
Fingers crossed.
Don't hold your breath. City are in hot pursuit.
Don't be saying that. That's something we might get to in a second, actually. But from a United point of view going into this weekend, Jess, is there any changes you would make? Obviously, we made a lot of changes. Well, I say a lot. We made a few changes for the Lewis game, which was always going to be expected. Is there anyone that you'd want to see start or bring in for this weekend? Obviously, we know that Lisa and Maria are probably, well, they are both out. I want to come to Jade as a separate topic in a second. But is there anyone, who do you want to see, I guess, start this weekend?
I'm kind of happy with our normal starting 11, which by now everyone should know because it doesn't really change much. I'd like to see either starting or at some point Vilda and Garcia, definitely. Whether they start or not, don't really mind, but I would like to see both of them because I think they are playing very well at the minute. But I think that's pretty much the same as what kind of everyone says week in, week out. I would like to see some of the new signings, but again, it's difficult to really comment on them because we've not seen it. I feel like we're stuck in a bit of a cycle with them. We've not seen them, so you don't know how they're going to play, so you don't know whether you want them to play, and then, like I say, it's just a bit of a cycle. But hopefully, we can bag a few early goals and then maybe get a bit of squad rotation in. But that might just be wishful thinking. So, but yeah, for me, VBR and Garcia either starting or coming on off the bench.
It's interesting, isn't it? There was obviously, I'm going to come to this now. Actually, in his press conference, he was talking about Jade Riviere potentially being ready for this weekend, and we could see a debut from her. But the fact that he's mentioning her already, and we've, as you said, we've got players. Cascarino sat on the bench; she's hardly played. Vilda has been in great form. We've hardly seen her playing. I know she started against Lewis, but in the league, we hardly see her playing. Do you think it's a bit strange that he's talking of Jade? And fullback is probably the two positions you'd say is pretty nailed. It's Honor and Blundell, pretty much every week. I mean, I don't know. I just find it, again, it's very bizarre that Jade is the one that, has come out of the press conference and seems to be the one that's potentially we could see. But Vilda and Cascarino and the likes of, we don't see. I don't know. But maybe it's because I just want to see Vilda start a game in the league now because I think she's earned it. But to me, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know if it's maybe because our fullbacks do a lot of running. So I wonder if maybe it's just more from the perspective of kind of getting them a bit of rest. I kind of look, when I see Russo, I kind of think the same. Russo, who I think sometimes starts flagging a little bit and looking a bit tired towards the end of games. I think that's why I sometimes kind of sub her off. And I wonder if it is the same for Blundell and Honor, because obviously they are bombing up the wing basically all game. So maybe he's just thinking in terms of like longevity for the season, especially if we are going to push a Champions League next year. Players like that kind of have such high impact, do so much running, they are going to need to get subbed at some point because when we start playing good teams, they're going to be kind of capitalising on us tiring maybe in the latter stages of games. So if other teams are bringing on kind of wingers later on in the game, we're potentially going to have to bring on fresh legs in the fullback positions. That's just the only thing I can really think of. That's maybe why he's mentioning her so much. But you never really know with Skinner. It could be anything.
Paul saying it, talking about, and I think, Paul, judging by your comments over the last previous few shows, I kind of think I know where your head is on Mark Skinner at the moment. Skinner never talks. I can't argue with it because he doesn't. So I think this is an interesting team because Mannion's named. That's the big standout for me. No Millie Turner in that 11. He's gone for Lansdale, obviously Golson. I'm trying to work out. So that's Toon on the right. I don't know. I'm not a fan of. It's very Juan Mata-esque from the men's side when we stuck him out on the right. I'm very against midfield, like centre midfielders playing out on the wings. I just don't think it works. I don't know. Because, the one thing that Skinner did say was obviously now that, he thinks that Bo Risa and Toon can play together. And so I can't remember the exact quote that came out from that. But that would seem to suggest putting Tooney out on the right. But for me, I'm not about that. I've got to be honest.
No, it's not needed. We have players there that can play in that position and play that position well. So I think if you put Tooney out on the right, you're doing that just to keep Tooney on the pitch. In which case you might as well just put her in her actual position and play her there. If you're that desperate to kind of have her on the pitch, you might as well play her in position.
was on a completely different tab then. Apology. I was clicking around trying to get back to the tab. I thought you'd carry on talking for it. What was that? A player, again, that Man United fans and West Ham fans obviously would know, and this is an interesting one. Interesting to see if Leon makes the squad. I know you've corrected your spelling there, but we know what you meant. I guess, Caden, coming over to you, are you surprised at what happened? Get me words out. Are you surprised at what's happened at United for Leon? Because, at West Ham, she didn't do amazingly. She didn't set the world alight, but was still a decent player. I've always thought she, as a quality player in there, Canada obviously pick her most weeks as well, and that's a very stacked 11. Well, it's a stacked squad. But are you surprised that we've not seen? Because I genuinely cannot remember the last game she played or featured in. I think it might have been Liverpool, but even then, that's start of January. So are you a little bit surprised that that Skinner just clearly doesn't seem to want to put Leon in the squad in some capacity?
Well, when she left, I was a bit 50-50 about it, because on one point I was a bit surprised because she was playing pretty much every game for us. She was one of the best players in the team, and she had everything going for her here, but she didn't do amazingly. She did all right. And then on the other side, I just thought, she's an Olympic gold medalist, isn't she? She was a massive coup for us, and now she's gone to a club that I thought would get more out of her, especially being so prominent for Canada as well. I mean, like I said, look at the squad they've got. She's in great company. I don't understand why Mark Skinner's not utilised her. I would begin to think she made a mistake going to United, but what do I know? Yeah,
I'm just if you're wondering why I was looking a bit confused, then it's because I'm trying to add up. I was trying to do some mental maths while you were talking there. So 18 from 32 to 60. It looks to me she's played 90 minutes of football since October for United, that is. Obviously for Canada, she's playing pretty much all the time. It's about 90 minutes since October. She played she played more at the start of the season, getting more regular minutes, but every single it's just on the bench, not in the squad, 14 minutes, not in the squad, 18 minutes, and then on the bench twice and not in the squad for the last 3. It's really bizarre. Because I didn't think she was that bad at West Ham. I want to be honest. I know her stats didn't reflect that. I think there was a question actually about Leon a bit further up for you. About Leon. I'm probably not going to be able to find it now. There it is. I've kind of just asked that one, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that she's not really featured. I think that's pretty much the question I just went for. Where is it? Yeah, 10 and 50. That's what I mean. You look at the stats. It doesn't look great. Certainly not for a forward. 10 and 50 is not a great return. But as what he said there, performance for Canada. I don't know. I really don't know. I just tweeted somebody earlier. Nobody knows. Ultimately, only the player and the coaching staff will know what has happened, because I think it's more than football. I think on that one, I don't think it's something she's done on the training ground, because you don't just get completely omitted from the squad like that. What's Highlane saying here? Don't understand why Skinner clearly doesn't want to play her. Why didn't he let her? Again, we did that show at the time. At the end of January, we obviously had that bid from AC Milan. Seemed to be accepted. Apparently, it was a bit too late. We accepted it too late past the deadline, and that's why that move fell through. So, bizarre. And yeah, TJ, like I said, we've always sat on this show. We will defend Skinner because I don't think he gets the praise that he deserves for what he's done with this squad. However, I'm not going to sit here and say everything's perfect, because I think there are some questionable decisions that has been made. Vilda is one of it. If Vilda doesn't start tomorrow, there will be an uproar, and rightly so, I think, on that one. It's interesting you mentioned that article, because we might actually be getting Stu in a second. if he's managed to get his kids off to bed, he might be joining us to talk a little bit about that. Because if you will have seen my Twitter, we had some back and forth about that article that went out of it earlier on. So that was interesting, that's for sure. I'll go with a question then that I always like to do on previews. I don't thought, but I'm going to ask you, Kate, if you can bring one United player across into West Ham starting 11, who who are you moving across and taking out of your starting 11 by moving them?
Oh, well, that's an excellent question. I mean, if I just had to think of one United player I would take, well, Tooney. But obviously, that's very unrealistic. I can't see that ever happening.
It doesn't have to be realistic. It's just whoever
Yeah.
if you could have your one dream signing from United, who are you moving across?
Tooney. Well, yeah, she's a fantastic player, as we've seen all season, as we've seen for a few seasons now, as we saw at the Euros. She's got everything going for her, and she's a fantastic personality as well. She'd be a great figure to have around the place, but obviously it depends where you'd put her. I mean, she'd go into, I think she'd go like pretty much into or near Brynjar's Dottir's position. So it's like you're getting Tooney in, but you're getting rid of your game changer. So it's a difficult one.
It's certainly a tough one. When we've done this one with teams in the pattern up, Jess, obviously from our point of view, this is going to be difficult. Is there any West Ham player you'd take and stick in? I don't think there's any I'd stick in the 11. However, there are a few players I would like.
Oh yeah, I rate like Brynjar's Dottir. I mean, we've already kind of mentioned the sort of key players for West Ham. If I was actually going to take a player, if I had to take someone, I'd think I'd take Sissoko, just on the off chance that she might get into a scrap, and it could just spice things up a bit. That's my only comment.
God, don't remind me of that.
See, I like that. I did like that.
I know people are like, oh, we don't want to get too like the men, but no, I love a bit of fire. I mean, yeah, I know it took it too far, but at the end of the day, football, it happens. I play. Whilst I am obviously a golden child and don't get into any kind of scraps, there are often scraps going on around me, like last Sunday.
Is there a story here?
Not really. There was just an Aggie little girl on the other team and started shoving someone. And then I was thinking I could probably rile her up a bit more. So I tried to get myself, because I genuinely went my head on a football pitch, which is really strange because off the pitch I have no patience whatsoever. But on the pitch I'm quite calm, so I'm very good at riling everyone else up. Anyway, she got yellow carded and I obviously just wandered off and carried on about my day. So there you go.
I think, yeah, I mean, Sissoko is a good shout. Fisk is a great player as well. Certainly as
I really rate Fisk.
as a rotation defender, but we've got so many centre halves.
I've been a big campaigner for a while to get Fisk back in the Lionesses squad, because she got that one call up a few years ago when she didn't play. I think when she's on form, she's more than good enough. And we had Lucy Parker get called up, so why can't we have more? Why can't Fisk get back in?
That was another player I was going to mention, Lucy. Do you know what? If we're looking realistic, serious options, we need fullback cover. I'd be bringing Kirsty Smith back and having her as a rotation fullback. We've got none now because Jade is obviously, well, she might be back around, but that's it. We've got Thor, who's now out. I was
going to say we should play Thor out at fullback. And how long? Do we know how long she's going to be out for?
No. It's not in the public domain, that one. Yeah. So, no, unsure on her return. So that's what I mean. Realistic. But a player that I do love is Longhurst. That's never going to happen.
Oh.
I just, again, when you're talking about passion on the pitch and things like that, obviously that famous thing about running up to the camera and, was it Have It or whatever? She shot when I think it was a derby.
Have some of that.
That was it.
Have some of that, yeah.
I like a player with a bit of something like that. So
she's
any of those
the best
players.
Personality in the team. 100%.
Certainly is. Obviously the West Ham BBC documentary and things like that obviously showed her in good light as well, and all, just on and off the pitch. I just think she just seems a good player to have on your team. Yes, TJ obviously Golden has played at left back. That's what I mean. She's not an actual left back. We don't have any cover there. We sold pretty much all of our fullbacks. Question for you, Jess. How many yellow and red cards have you had?
I have never had a card.
I find that hard to believe.
So actually, technically, I got a yellow once, but the ref didn't.
You have then?
So put it through. So what happened was it was the most idiotic yellow card ever. I was wearing a necklace. The ref told me to take it off, so I just ran to the side of the pitch, launched it at my coach, ran back on. Did like this worldy bit of skill, like did a kind of Rabona to like keep the ball in and like cut past the player. Oh, absolute perfection. The ref stopped the game, called me over, and I thought, he was there to praise me on my techers. But actually, he was giving me a yellow card for coming back on the pitch when he hadn't told me to. But I've not actually left the pitch in the first place. He did not tell me to go off the pitch and give my necklace to the coach. He just said, like, go. You can't wear that. So I didn't exit the pitch. I just lobbed it off the side. And that's what I got a yellow card for. Then after the game, I was like, that was really pointless. Are you going to actually put that through? Because that's obviously a fine that I then have to pay. And he said no. So it actually never got officially put through, which means that I actually have never had a yellow card or a red card. Just going to put that out there.
Okay.
I've only ever been booked once, and that was in a 6-a-side, which is incredibly hard to get booked in.
What to do, like 2 foot?
Oh god, short story time. So obviously in 6, some of them obviously you're not allowed in the keeper's little area, and things like that. Ball's going through, I run in, keeper comes out, sliding out to catch it. I've got into them and fallen over it because it's kind of on the edge, so I've kind of gone over, thought nothing of it. As I've gone to stand up, he's kicked the back of my legs because he thinks I've done it on purpose. A few expletives, back and forth. So I've just turned around as he's gone to kick it, swung for him, back of the legs. He's gone to the floor. Ref comes over just to give us a talking to. I basically told the ref to do one in the nicest possible way, and that got me booked. I had a mark on my record.
I wish I had stories as interesting as that, but I packed up football when I was 8. So, and I'm 20 now, so that tells you all you need to know.
No early bookings then.
No early bookings. I was like, as soon as the club that I was with went under, I was just like, yeah,
that's me done.
That's me done.
Oh, I love a slide tackle. Luckily, I am actually very good at slide tackles, so it's not very often that I mess them up. I'm quite clever. I normally can like get a bit of the player without actually, making it obvious. So you get the ball first, then you just get a bit of the player. You know what it's like. So I've actually probably avoided a lot of yellows. Like I say, I'm very good at keeping a calm head on the pitch, so I can normally talk my way out of a pickle. I have been like warned a few times, like if you carry on, you're going to get a card. But that's when you just sweet talk the ref and just carry on. Hope for the best.
That's fair enough. I think that's lit. Yeah, I can't remember many of my other football stories, to be fair. I
can play at fullback. So, Mark, I'm just saying, if you need me.
Is he watching?
All the slides, also I will be flying in and I will crunch everybody I can. I live for it.
Very McCabe-esque on that front.
Yeah, definitely. She is like my idol. I'll just fly in. Although she gets the cards, I don't.
There's that Twitter account, isn't there? Has Katie McCabe been booked today? That's a Twitter account. It just says yes or no.
She was walking a tightrope against Bayern, that's for sure. Some of the incident, I should say, she was involved in.
Stanway.
Yeah,
Stanway, yeah.
She kicking the ball at the player's head when she was down as well. McCabe might have been naughty on that one, but
I don't know how she got away with it. To be honest, that's.
Oh mate, I'm amazed. But talking about fullbacks, obviously that we were mentioning, Cascarino played fullback for France, played left back there. Not gonna lie, completely forgot about because she's played centre back all season. We forget obviously she played right back for Brighton for pretty much all of last season.
I think it's because she's so good at centre back. I actually forget that she's potentially like her normal position would be fullback.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to argue it. She certainly slotted in more than comfortably at centre half. So, but yeah, potentially that's an option as well to go into there. A couple of final questions before we look to wrap this one up. I don't think they are going to. I did say before past, and it's kind of gone past the cut-off, so we will look to wrap this one up shortly. Kane, the question I wanted to ask you really in terms of how you think United have done this season, because there's a lot of talk amongst obviously United fans, this being the season we've got to make top 3. you were mentioning about City. I can't remember you said it on here or backstage before we went live, talking about City. Obviously, are in some form now. Where do you kind of see United's season going from here, and how have you kind of assessed it, looking at it from the outside?
Well, the league is going to be a big ask for United now, I think, because Chelsea are obviously, I mean, they speak for themselves. They're unstoppable on their day, and if they don't slip up, then yeah, I think the league's done. But I think United, I think you'll get Champions League, definitely. Whether that's in a playoff like City have bottled for the past 3 years, something like that, or whether you go straight into the group. Either way, I think you'll be playing Champions League football in some form next season, and I think next season as well you could really go for the title, because you've probably seen a lot of the rumours going around with Chelsea. You know, are they going to lose? Even though she's not played much this season, are they going to lose Harder? Are they going to lose Eriksen? There's a lot of key players at Chelsea that are being linked with other clubs. So could United take advantage of that next year?
Keep an eye on Bayern Munich, on those two. That's all I'll say on that one. Top two was a failure. I don't know about that. Top three, maybe. I'd agree with that. I'd agree if it's not top three, maybe.
I mean, I've watched. I'd agree with that. Top three, because I mean, who's fourth right now? Was it Arsenal?
Arsenal are 3 points behind us with a game in hand, so they win that. There's 3 teams on 35.
To be fair, on whether or not, I don't think Arsenal would overtake you or City anyway, because I've watched Arsenal most recently. I think I went with a couple of friends to their game against City. It was February, wasn't it? It was just last month. And they first half they were awful.
Yeah, they were shocking. I went to that game as well, and they were really bad.
Oh, they were awful. Was it three at the back?
Defensively, oh my God. Me and my friends were sat there, and we were like, what is this?
I was watching it just thinking, I travelled with an Arsenal fan who was obviously like, oh my God, we need to win today, otherwise the league's gone. We need to win. And I'm just watching it, and I'm like, this isn't Arsenal, but who are these? Who are these people in disguise that are pretending to be Arsenal? That's not Arsenal.
It wasn't Megan by any chance, was it? Because
Megan was in the press box that game.
I was going to say, because that game, I remember her messaging me, because she actually, I think United were playing at the same time, similar time, and obviously because of the predictions league, there was a lot of results that she was betting on, and obviously that Arsenal one was a disappointment for her.
Yeah. I travelled with her, but I didn't watch the game with her. But I can't. She obviously would have had to have hid any disappointment. Not sure if she's watching this or not, but
potentially.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. You potentially got 3 teams level on points. I know that those 2 clubs have still got to go to Chelsea. Well, not got to go. They've got to play Chelsea. That's this weekend, actually, City and Chelsea.
That's huge.
Millie Bright, well, she is out for that one. Spoilers. Sorry. Probably shouldn't say that on here. She might allegedly be out for this weekend. But yeah, obviously, that could be a blow from Chelsea's point of view. So I don't really know. It depends what me and Barry were kind of arguing in a group chat about this, that I want Chelsea to win that because I don't want City catching up to us. But then his argument is if we're going for the title, we want City to win it. To be honest, I'm forgetting about the title. Let's just get top 3 nailed.
Get Champions League.
Next season. I just want Champions League. I think because of how well we've done, there was a sort of point where you're like, oh, we could actually do this. But I think a lot of the time we kind of forget how new United are as a team, especially with kind of COVID seasons being thrown in the middle of that. We have progressed very, very quickly. So I would just like to see us get Champions League. I think that would be huge. And just progress year on year, that would be massive progress for us.
I mean, this is a topic kind of really for another show, but it is a fair point. If we do finish 3rd, we could end up doing what City do. And yes, we've technically made the Champions League. We'll be playing a game, well, 2, 4 potentially to get to the group stage. We might not even make it because there is a very strong chance when you finish 3rd, City have had Real Madrid. Do we fancy ourselves against them? I don't think we beat them at the moment. So
I mean, yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Plus, we witnessed it. Obviously, I don't know the mentality of the players with United, but we witnessed it with Keira Walsh, didn't we? We knew Keira Walsh was rejecting Barcelona because she wanted to play with City in the Champions League, and then she got knocked. And then as soon as City got knocked out of the Champions League by Real Madrid, off she went. So it was. And I did hear there were links between that, and I just think, is there anything like that in the United team as well? You don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the players are going to want to play Champions League, and they're going to want to play Champions League kind of properly, if that makes sense, because that comment's really kind of correct. There's a big difference between getting to the group stages and doing what City seem to love to do, which is technically get Champions League football, yes, but then lose to Real Madrid. And we don't want that. We want proper Champions League. We want group stages. We want like nights in Europe. That is what we want, and that is what kind of, as a club, we should be striving for 100%.
Yeah.
No, I'd agree with that. There's a couple of comments. I don't agree with that, I've got to be honest. Because if we finish third and make it through the qualifying rounds into the group stage, I don't think we've done a bad job.
Not at all.
If that's your opinion, you're more than entitled to that one. There was a comment a bit further on. So this is a comparison. I think I started this on a show a few weeks ago because I said that Roma had been formed at the same time as us, and they have. They're the same age as us. And we saw them against Barcelona the other night. Pretty good performance from them, to be fair. Held their own against one of Europe's best. However, I will caveat by saying, yes, they probably have done better than us in the years that they've been going. It's a bit easier to get into the Champions League in Italy than it is in England because you're trying to break up a traditional top three of, I think John tweeted for the last, I think since 2014, that top three has been that top three. It's never changed. So you've got to try and break that up. Whereas in Italy, it's a little bit different to try and get in. But that's taken nothing away from Roma. I said they held Barcelona to a one goal, and they're still in the tie. So fair play to them.
Yeah.
They've done a lot in that
I think
tie.
that just shows like if you've got to be kind of in it to win it. Like if we got the chance to just go up against like Barcelona or Real Madrid, you never actually know how we're going to do because we're not in the position to kind of play those teams because we're not in the Champions League. You don't actually know how we would do against them. Because I do think that the mentality is different going into games like that. You are going to be up for it, and I think you're really, the players they're going to know they have to be at their best if they're playing a team like that. And I think that's why potentially teams like Roma can kind of almost hold their own against a team like Barcelona and come away with a pretty good result, really.
No, 100%. There's a comment that's just come up on the thing, but it's not come up on StreamYard yet, so I can't bring it up. There it is. Roma look really good. It's kind of similar to what you were saying, Jess. They're playing regular Champions League football, makes them a better side. They're in Champions League, so they're going to be able to attract that level of player. That's why I said the top three is the most important this season. Forget the league. We need to get there so we can actually get the type of players that these traditional top three clubs aren't getting, because it's very hard to attract that level of player when you can't promise them Champions League. So it's a little bit easier on that front. But who knows? If we're going to make Champions League, for sure, there was a comment a bit further up, we have to win on tomorrow. Because if we've got any aspirations of getting there, we cannot drop any more points.
Yeah, we can't be dropping points at all, really, especially against teams that, we should be beating kind of comfortably. We've got to be kind of pretty much flawless. And, a good win as well. A few goals is going to be great for goal difference because of how tight it is. I think we mentioned this on previous shows that it could come down to goal difference. In this league this year, goal difference could actually be a huge factor. So if it is kind of not necessarily against West Ham, but if we're playing a team that we kind of score a couple of passes, we need to keep going. There's kind of can't be any sort of sitting back and just seeing out the game. We've got to keep going. And that goes for all the kind of top three teams or top four. Because it could really get tight for those positions, those Champions League spots.
100%, and TJ's bang on. We are still first in the goal difference front for the time being, that's for sure. So we shall see on that one. Right, let's come to your score predictions. And I know, Jess, you did one on Wednesday. I'm intrigued to see if yours has changed from Wednesday. I can't even remember what you said. What did you say? 2-0?
I want to say 3-0, but what did I say on Wednesday?
I'm going to find that while I ask you both what you said.
I said. I would just like to point out that I predicted the England score last night correctly. So if I'm on a bit of a roll, I want to say 3-0, but I don't know what I said on Wednesday. I honestly couldn't remember. The scores just come to me. You know, it's a
Is it
gift.
2-1 the most commonly predicted score in football?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't actually care that much. I think I just plucked a number out of thin air and it just happened to be right.
We shall find out. I mean, Caden, what are you going for score-wise?
Well, there's the optimistic and the realistic for me. Optimistic, I think we could get a 1-1 or a 0-0, something like that. I mean, remember we pulled that off last season, didn't we? Much to your frustration. And then that's the optimistic. The realistic, yeah, 3-0.
To be fair, that's a lot of people are saying 3. It was quite funny actually, because obviously we got our predictions league going, and there's about 45-50 people still left playing that, and nearly everybody this week has gone 3-0 United. I think there's like 1 or 2 people that haven't. It's the first week I've ever seen the scores, and nearly everybody has gone for the same thing. So it does seem very 3-0-esque.
Yeah.
There's another 3-0 there, 3-1, 5-0 maybe. It could still, honestly, I do not want another 1-1. That was genuinely horrendous. That and Villa, the 0-0 was the worst.
Yeah,
you drew 0-0 with Everton, didn't you?
See, that wasn't as bad because we dominated the game. The West Ham one was worse. I think maybe for me, just because I was there and it was freezing cold. It was a Wednesday. It took so long to get there as well because it's in the middle of nowhere. For me, it's like nearly 3 hours. Got there, it was pissing down the rain, and that late 95th minute or whatever it was equaliser.
It took us about a day to figure out who'd actually scored because there was that many bodies in the box.
Literally, it was. I think I just remember I just sat back down, didn't say a word, and put my scarf over my face, and just didn't talk for like 20 minutes. We were still sat there long after full time.
That killed your champion. That killed your Champions League hopes last season, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't want to repeat this season.
No. Arsenal. I think we've done that to Arsenal this year. I think we just love.
Yeah, absolutely fine, but no, we need top 3 this year, 100%.
We just love killing teams' Champions League hopes. Clearly.
Well, we shall see tomorrow how that one goes, and John always goes 3-0 in these sorts of games, but I don't think there's been one this season. Tomorrow you might be right. I don't know what you've gone for a prediction thing. I think you might have gone 3. So
yeah, I said 3. Yeah.
And I don't want a game like Reading. Don't want that one either. No chance. Well, to be fair, if we win, it doesn't really matter. But I don't want the stress, on a Saturday afternoon on that one. And 5-2, that's something a little bit different. You've updated your picture as well now. Donald, you got the picture to go with you? Because it was just a big letter D on your profile. But now, it's got going for the full whack. I like it. Right, we shall wrap it up there. We've been going for about an hour because we did start a little bit earlier tonight. Caden, where can people find you? Kind of your socials and things like that. I know you've got your journalism side as well as obviously being a Hammers fan. Where can people find all of that if they want to go and check it out?
I'm on. Well, my Twitter's tagged here. I'm also on Instagram, and I bet you might have to dig to find me on Instagram because it's not the same username, but. I've got a journalism account and a personal account if you're into seeing me at pubs or something. and I'm on LinkedIn as well. If people want to connect with me on LinkedIn, then they're more than welcome to. But Twitter is where you'll mainly find what I get up to. I'm doing a lot of work experience placements with like different clubs, like Burton Albion, Birmingham City, and all that. So. I've always got something going on. If you just want to see what I get up to, then that's the place to go.
Definitely make sure you go and check that out. It'll be in the description. It's obviously on the Twitter as well. And people know where to find Jess. She was begging Serena for an England call-up, I think, the other night.
Like I said, I can play pretty much anywhere. I'm a versatile player, so if Billy Bright is out, then I can take a little trip to centre-back as well. Like I said, love a flying slide tackle. So Leah Williamson as my centre-back partner. Oh, what a dream that would be. Oh, if I manifest it enough, you never know, it might happen.
So there we are. So make sure you're following Jess as well. Make sure obviously you're liking the video and subscribing. 100% on that comment. We'll end it on that one, I think. If you do it in this season, make sure it's Chelsea or City. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
We'll be back on when's our next show? Monday night. Obviously for the match reaction for West Ham. And yeah, we'll just see you guys next week. So cheers all. See you guys next one.